This is a recording of studio sessions with Bear, a live Humanitarians AI training led by Professor Nik Bear Brown, recorded on May 17, 2025. In this session, you'll see the team explore real tools for creating educational videos with AI, covering everything from script writing and voiceovers to image generation and editing. It's a behind-the-scenes look at how we build content together in real time.
Okay, so what we're going to do is just sort of go through the process of making a video right now. Is Nina on?
Yep, I'm here.
Great. And this is being recorded?
Yes,
Great.
it is being recorded.
So the first thing I'm going to do is make not the first thing, what we're going to do is, basic purpose of this is just how do we quickly make videos? I think probably since people from the Kanban OPT team are here, I'm hoping that means you're going to want to make videos. So the first video you should probably make is, what is this project? Because if you want to sell that project, we need to easily explain it to people. So the way I would go about that, can I share?
There you go. Sorry about that.
I would, and we can do this for any article or anything. This is part of the reason why we put the stuff up here. So it's easy to find stuff, but we'll go to projects. We'll go to the OPT Kanban. And what I would start doing is I would just take the whole thing. I can take it like this. I'm going to have to use Claude in here because the Northeastern Claude thing is, sometimes it works in one browser, but not another. So I'll have a prompt like write a voiceover script. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do next, not the first thing, what I'm going to do next is create a little folder. And I'm going to call this folder voiceovers. Actually, I'm going to call it scripts. One of those is going to be a README. I'll change in a second. I'm going to download this little script here. I'm going to upload those scripts to the project here in the scripts folder. And this is sort of the process, because what will happen, I know for at least for me, what will happen is I'll forget where the script is, if it's in a session, what session it's in, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just going to clean up this quickly. By the way, you can take old photos of yourself and redo them in Midjourney now. And put this here. You can go back here. And this is where your expertise is going to come in, because this script may be wrong, or it may not reflect the way you want uh, to say something about it. And so you're going to have to read the script and edit it. It also helps to have it in a voiceover format. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to say remove the annotation. And we're going to put it in two tools. And we can give you access to both these tools. You have access to the Suno. Is a question? Okay, and so you want to listen to the script. You can also record it yourself if you wish. You can also record it and have 11 Labs take your recording and switch it to a different voice if you want. But we are going to now render the sound. And usually with these kinds of scripts, you're going to want to mix some AI footage, what we'll call B-roll, with actual footage of the tool. But you guys have access to the tool, so you can just use the tool and do a screen share. But let's first try it with 11 Labs. The spacing and the capitalization will be important. So, for example, in a voiceover, it's likely to say OPT, OPT. But if it were spelled like this, the voiceover would likely say opt. And you'll see, it will listen to it. It should say OPT if it's capitalized, but it may say opt. If it's opt, then you may do this, OPT. But we have to listen to it first. Again, I think we have 300,000 or more credits here. So you can use this as much as you want. And we'll use another tool, which I tend to prefer, called Suno for this as well. So this will add a pause to it I'll add more of a pause to it if I do that. But I think this should be fine. So we listen to it.
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web app.
That's too slow. I made this super slow on purpose for another. So the speed is super slow here. Let's change that. Like, I think there's a thing to do it to defaults, reset values. So this will reset it to another, welcome to the, so that was way too slow. But you can adjust those here.
Application designed to transform how educational institutions and international students navigate the optional practical training application process. Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT application process.
I'm not in love with that. You can try different voices or just use your own voice and have it either just use your own voice or do it, but you can play with things. This is the basic process of AI, to try and play, try and play, try and play, try and play.
Hey, Nick, can we ask questions as you go along?
Absolutely.
Yeah, how do you pick a voice?
Okay, good question. I would have not shown you that. You go to voices.
Oh, got it. Okay. Oh, cool.
And you have my voices, which means you can upload your own recording and create a voice from a clone. So let's try a different voice. Let's try.
G'day, cobbers.
G'day,
My
cobber.
voice is a fair dinkum Aussie voice. Great for a ripper yarn about life down under. You'll be a true blue Aussie and welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web application.
So the problem with a voice like that is the voice will probably distract from your message because the voice is so funny.
Yeah.
But I did actually create a voice. It's in my voices, which I think works well for a lot of stuff. It's a female voice, which tends to be less aggressive. And so this is a voice. It's not a default 11 Labs voice. This is a voice I created. And I created it actually for the Catbot project because I felt the Catbot, was just better with the female voice. It's just softer and not as aggressive, as opposed to the voice or my own voice. And the voices they had, I didn't really like. So this is that one. I just named the voices. So just an arbitrary name.
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web application designed to transform how educational institutions and international students navigate the optional practical training application process.
You can play with it. I actually like that voice quite a bit. It's clear. There's no mumbling of anything, but it's not like really aggressive, or you can also use Indian voices or whatever voices. I tend, though, to use Suno for this, which you also have access to. We'll go to create. I'll just put that in there. And I'll use the style spoken word. I also add poetry to that to give it a more lyrical feel. What I find is with the 11 Lambs voices, they're very percussive. And they don't really have, most people speak with a rhythm. They don't really have the rhythm. They're very dot, 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 dot. Welcome to the OPT Portal Project kind of thing. Some of them aren't so much, but that's what I hear when I listen to those voices. So instead, and because of that, I tried Suno. Suno isn't made for this. It isn't made for voiceover. But so many of the voices had that almost robotic, hello, I am a, kind of feel, that I just said, well, why not try Suno? And so I did. And so let's try Suno. With Suno, you work a little differently. You generate a bunch of them, typically 5 to 7, but you have 10,000 plus credits, and we have multiple Suno accounts. So we've never run out of Suno credits, even though we've made hundreds of songs. Each song that we've made had maybe 20 versions of the song. And then it reloads every month. So I'm just going to create another advantage to Sumo is it generates a WAV file, unlike 11 Labs, which generates an MP3 file. MP3 files aren't as high quality. They're also not stereo, they're mono. But let's listen to a couple.
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web application.
Welcome to the OP Portal Project,
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web app.
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web application designed to transform how educational institutions and international students navigate the optional practical training application process. Every year, thousands of international students face a complex
So we're going to remove that sound if you want to remove the sound. So I'm going to download this. Once it finishes, it hasn't finished actually rendering it. It allowed me to play it before it finished. And I would typically play with the voice a little bit more. I might add something like Jamaican accent or something to it to just give it a little bit more of a flavor. And then I'll like it. I forgot which one. I think was this one.
heavy OPT application process. Universities struggle with manual tracking systems.
Well, I would play with that voice now. I'm not in love with that voice, but again, the process of AI is to quickly generate stuff and filter, quickly generate, filter, quickly generate, filter, and refine. But because the purpose of this is to show you, so we download the WAV file and use the WAV file, not the MP3 file. Higher quality. And then we open it in a free tool, which is also the best tool. That's the best situation. When the best tool is also a free tool called Audacity. And we open it up and we look at it. The end looks a little funny here. It should tail a bit better. So I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to listen to that. Listen to that from about here. This is the end of the speech. Okay, so that's just music. So the tendency of Suno is to add a little bit of background music, which is actually kind of nice. But I'm going to zoom back out. So it looks like the actual speaking may have stopped here. And we can see that from sort of the patterns in the wave, but let's check that.
Higher Education Administration.
Yeah.
Higher Education Administration.
So what we're going to do, so this is where it actually ended. And then it added just some music trailer, which is nice to have a couple seconds, but not 30 seconds of so we are going, I'm going the wrong way, am I? So what we're going to do is it ends here.
Administration.
Looks to be about here where we want to end it. So we just go to edit. And we go to remove special trim audio. And while we have everything highlighted, we're going to change the amplitude. So we go to Effect, Volume and Compression, and Amplify. Here it says, if we wanted to make it maximal, that is to have the full expressive vocal range, we would amplify it by 2.54, but we never want to take it to the full range. Because if you've ever heard a speaker like vibrate, it's because they've gone to or above the full range. So it says if we go to 2.54, we'll get a full range, but we don't really want a full range. We want it up there, but we don't want it full. So I'm going to take that to 2. And there we go. And now, because we sort of cut this off, we're going to fade it down. So we go to Effect again. And then we go to Fading, and we go to Fade Out. It looks like I made a little mistake. I kept something I shouldn't have. So another way of getting rid of stuff is not to trim, but just to cut. So I'm just going to cut that. And I can see that. I could see that it went down, 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 and then there was a spike. And we don't want that spike. So we'll listen to it again.
Transparency in Higher Education Administration.
I love that fade. I think I'm going to fade it again.
In administration.
Okay, that's better.
Hey, Nick, I have a quick question. Why are there 2 tracks? Is one, looks like both are voice?
Yeah, it's called stereo. So if one is for your right, so so I'm deaf in one ear.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. It's stereo.
Sometimes music sounds weird because in like a stereo album, sometimes they'll play things on the left mic, but not the right.
Mm-hmm.
I won't hear it if they don't also put it on the right.
Got it.
And if you opened up an MP3 file, you would only see one track.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's not stereo. But this is more sophisticated. You could actually, like what often happens is in an actual album, sometimes they'll have the sounds different, but that's problematic for people like me who can't hear in one ear because you may not ever have noticed it on an album. I do whenever they do that out to an album. Because if I'm listening to it on headphones, then it literally what is supposed to go in the right ear, I don't hear.
Got it.
But you don't really have to worry about that. It should be here. You see, it's the same duplicated, but this is stereo sound. It's also an indication that you have a better sound. It's not a mono sound. So then we save it again. Got another question?
Yeah. Where's the music track? Is it part of the
I'll
voice?
show you that in a second.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is this is a combination of all the tracks. So I'm going to save this to, I'm just going to do it to the scripts folder. That's where we put this stuff. And so this sound is a combination of all the sounds. So there are some free tools. The one that I typically use is called Fader. And we create something called a stem. So what we would do is we upload a song, and I'll sign in. So you can get just a free Google account, and they give you quite a few fades on the free one. Oh, I guess I didn't have one on Google. I had, I guess, one on a different one, but I just signed up for Fader right there. What we're doing is we're going to create a stem. We're going to upload the song, which is downloads the version, the save version that we trim is in scripts. And what it's going to do, it's going to remove all the instruments and the vocals and put those into different tracks. And you don't have to do this. This would only be if you only want to separate the voice. So we're going to download the stems, we're going to download them all, and we're going to download them in WAV format. So we download the stems. And then I'm going to move that file to our scripts folder. What is it called? Fader. Oh, am I in downloads? But I've downloaded it. Oh, here we go. And I'm going to move that to the scripts folder. So let's open up the scripts folder. Then we can see the different tracks. So I'm going to do it this way so you can see. So this is the bass, this is the drums, instrumental, other, and vocals. So if we just wanted to hear the vocals, we can just play it.
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web application designed to transform how educational institutions and international students navigate the optional practical training application process. Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT.
You wanted to hear the other tracks? You could do that. This is the instrumental. And sometimes the instrumental may not be going all the time. That's why you're not hearing it. This is why it's actually useful to open these things up in Audacity, because that had vocals throughout, but it didn't have all the other tracks throughout. So if we go to our scripts folder, and we open one up, this is our bass. We see we didn't have bass until, a good minute and, 25 seconds in, and not a whole lot of bass overall. You also notice the bass is here. We actually had a difference between the two tracks. They're similar, but this is not the same as that. If we opened up any of the other ones, let's open up the vocals. We had vocals pretty much throughout, except for at the very end. And the vocals were pretty much the same vocal on both tracks. And since the vocal dominated, that's what. But if we open up another track, let's say drums, it doesn't look like we had any drums in it at all, which is kind of right listening to it. And the other instrumental will be like the piano and stuff like that. And so I think it was mostly, so this would be either instrumental or other. So it was mostly other. That was our little piano-y background thing. And so you can look at those things, but that didn't start, which it didn't until maybe 14 seconds in. But if you just wanted the vocals, you would do the same thing, but you know the vocals don't do anything after that. So you just trim it again. So edit, remove special, trim. And then we have only vocals. We don't have that dead after it. And then, is that a question? Okay, so, and then you can save it again. So just save as, export audio. It's going to overwrite that one. And if you open it up again, it wouldn't have that. So then the next thing we need, now that you have a script, after you read your script, you're going to want a mix of what you want to do. So then you can go back to, so I'm going to close all this, not save it. You have your script here, and then you would prompt it. So here's our script, and you go back to a tool. And you would say something like, I want a mix of showing the tool and AI generated B-roll. Suggest scenes most around 3 to 5 seconds. And this would be sort of a, not quite a storyboard because we don't have images yet, but this would be the basis of what images do you want in your storyboard. So it's going to take a minute or two to do this. Any questions while it's doing its thing?
No,
So,
no questions.
great. So I'm going to open that up again. And put it in with the other stuff so I keep track of this stuff. And this also will allow you to work on it together. You can make scenes. And as I've said 20 times, and it'll probably say again 20 more times, you'll almost never accept the first thing that comes out of the You'll think about it and look at it. But what we'll do is we'll start making some scenes. So here's our first scene. Welcome to the OPT portal. It's about, so since OPT is about international students, I would add that in the visual. I wouldn't use the university logo. That's too sort of generic. And then whenever there's a screen recording here, you're just going to use something like a Snagit or any screen capture tool to just capture you actually using the tool. But I like this one, aerial view of, so there's a couple ways to do this. So now we're going to generate some B-rolls. The first one is this. So I'm just going to start with that. And the way we do that is, again, you have access to this is with Midjourney. And this is under the Humanitarians AI. And I usually do this in the channel called YouTube. And I'm just going to put this in a few times. And I'm almost certainly not going to accept the initial ones here. I'm just going to generate a few. Another thing we can do is this. We can go to this site here. Where's the stupid Zoom thing? I'll put it in here. But we could also just put this in, look for, so this is too far away. And this is why having an actual picture might be better. So I just from Nina can comment on this, but I think you want the images to be a little bit more emotional when you use your B-reel. And this doesn't say anything. You should try to get a picture of Northeastern.
Great. Are you sharing, Nick?
Am I sharing?
No, well, yes, you are. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll share again. So that's why I would go to the Northeastern website, but I don't want to change my password right now because we're recording this. But I would say Northeastern.
Right. Are you looking for the binder?
I was, but I'll just find a picture of Northeastern. It doesn't really matter.
I'll see if I can find a link to that.
Yeah, we can share this, but you can also just go on YouTube and just find something. So this is a little bit more iconic. So I'm going to use this picture as a base, just to give me suggestions on, and of course Zoom is getting in the way of everything. And so what I will do is I'm going to just get rid of a lot of these just to use a function called describe. And then what it'll do is it'll take this image. It's also an AVF image, which it probably won't accept, but we'll try. So it does not accept it because it's AVF. So I'm just going to convert that image. I do this so much that I have Python scripts which convert these images. And I'm going to put it in its own little file. I'm going to rename it. And then I'm going to convert it to a PNG. The reason why I didn't accept it, it was an AVF image. And I don't know why it can't handle that format because it's a common format, but it can't. So we converted it to a PNG. And so what we'll do is we'll look at these. And it probably knows, anybody know the name of this Kritzman quad or something?
Like the one near Richards?
Yeah, this Kritzman quadrangle, that Kritzman.
Yeah, Kurtzman quad.
So we're going to put that actually, because it probably actually has pictures of it, which are labeled that. Again, Zoom doing its best to get in the way of everything. So we're going to say, imagine international students. I'm going to use this. Building is gray and white under star here. And I'm going to also add the word Northeastern, because it also probably knows Northeastern. Then I already have some default language for this, so I'm just going to cut and paste it. Whereas so to make it just beautiful photography, I add this hyper-realist photography in the style of National Geographic. The aspect ratio is going to be 16:9 because that is the YouTube aspect ratio. This OREF is for if you want to use, for example, a picture of yourself. So if you have old pictures of yourself and you want to redo yourself, talking with Rama in ancient India, you can use OREF. What we're going to have, though, is just a style ref. Style ref is just a sort of a general thing. So OREF, if you have an old picture of yourself and you want to redo it, so it's basically you, but it's like I was shot in 2025 with those level of quality cameras. You can use OREF. If you want to see an example of that, we'll just put it here. So for example, here is a actual picture. And if we use OREF, wherever it is, that is the redone picture. So redone picture, but this is now HD, and here's the original. Original, AI redone. So this OREF thing, it's insane. It maybe 10% of the time, it doesn't really keep your face. But you can just, as with everything in AI, if it doesn't keep your face, you just don't use that picture. But I'm going to be redoing a bunch of family photos with this because, you go from okay quality to much higher quality. This is HD. And that's OREF. And if you wanted to, you could, put yourself in whatever environment you wanted to, ancient India or wherever you wanted to be. But we're going to use something called SREF. And what SREF is style ref, it doesn't mean we want to match people's faces exactly. It means we want the feel of the image. We don't really want this image. We want the feel of the image, as opposed to this, where I want this weird nose. And it kept that weird nose. And we'll do it a few times and just start generating images.
So Nick, all you do is add SREF and it'll keep the same look and feel? Or do you need to?
SREF is style ref, and this is look and feel. OREF is for like putting your face.
Right.
If you wanted to put your face in like a Victorian costume, whatever.
Got it.
You would use OREF. Or if you just want to do something like this where you're just making a much higher quality version or changing the angle rather than having it go to the side. You just want it dead on. That's OREF.
Okay. So you don't need a number after SREF?
You can, that's the weight. So both of them have numbers, a good question. So if I wanted it to sort of look like this, but not, then I can change the weight of how much it does the OREF or SREF. So if I wanted something that didn't keep it exactly, but was sort of inspired by it, but kept it kind of close, I can add additional parameter called OW or SW, which is the weight of how much does it do that. Do I want it exactly looking like that style? Or do I want it kind of inspired by the style? So that would be an additional parameter here. I forget the values of them. So this is where you would look things up. And I believe it's called SW. I think the values are 0 to 1,000, where 0 is like make it match exactly. And so it would be an additional parameter here, and 1,000 is like be vaguely inspired by it. And this would be a weight. I'm just going to the number 100 here. And I'd have to look up whether low is matching or low is not matching. But you can just look up the references. And what this other parameter doing is just adjusting the weight. How faithful do you want to be to that picture? And I believe, and we can look, actually, we might as well do this now in Midjourney documentation. So most of these parameters like OREF, SREF, you can go to the documentation. Here's the Midjourney docs. Where's the... This is often here. Some of these are such shitty guides that I also might do this. What I might do is I just might put in the actual Midjourney docs. That's a shitty one as well. And this is where Claude is great, and all these are great. You can put in this little prompt here. Already I have too many windows. And ask it. So this is where often these language models are better than the actual documentation. The actual documentation is there, but it's hard to read. But I can just, hey, explain, sref, oref, sw, ow, etc. And then you can start having a conversation with it. And so what I want to know is this good or bad? So what are the ranges of these? And I think the ranges are 0 to 1,000. But hopefully we'll figure that out. Yeah, 0 to 1,000. Default is 100. So if you don't do anything, and that's moderate. So low is little, 1,000 is maximum. So if I put 1,000, I would want to try to match that picture exactly. If I just sort of moderately wanted to do it, I would maybe do it between 100 and 400, or just not change it because the default is 100. Does that make sense? Because how much do we want to keep it?
Yep.
Another thing to do is just play with it. So we can do the same thing, and let's take it to 1,000 and see what happens. And if the documentation is correct, it's going to try to match, like this doesn't even have any people in it, right? It's sort of vaguely, the building looks the same-ish, but that doesn't really even have the people in there, right? So if the documentation is right, and this is where I also think going to that site where they have the actual images would be nice, because they tend to have better images or if you want, you could literally just take a picture. You could walk outside and just start taking some pictures of Northeastern.
Yeah, I put some links in the chat for the library repository and the brand guidelines too. There might be some images there.
Yeah. And so, you could just literally take a picture. The good thing about taking a picture is it will make it look like it was shot by a much better camera. So if I just take a picture, I'm doing this a lot with a lot of old images. I'm just having them redone in Midjourney as if they were shot with a Hasselblad. I'm trying to keep the picture. And it can do that. It can, sometimes it makes them look too good. Because, if you have a family photo and, it's shot by some random person on a flash camera, it's usually not very high quality. And you can redo an image as if it were shot by a professional photographer. But none of these are particularly interesting. So I'm not going to necessarily use these but this is again, play. I'm going to get even closer. I'm just going to do a picture of an international student. And if you want to use your face, you can use your face just by taking any picture of your face and using that as an OREF. So you can have you typing on a laptop in the whatever quad, right? If you wish, or you can have it not completely faithfully go to your face. If you want to match it exactly, bring the weight up to 1,000. If you want it to be inspired by your face. But I'm just going to go ahead and create an image just based on, giving it an Indian name. And I'm going to use that as an image because right now these just don't convey any emotion to me. And this is not so much what we're talking about today, which is the technical aspects of building it. I just don't think these are visually very interesting. And you want your B-roll. So I'm just going to international student. And I'm going to give her a name. And what this will do is I could say, East Indian, and you can do that. But if you just give it a name, my bet is that it's going to create an Indian woman. The fact that you said student, it's likely to be doing something in the 20s. But if you wanted, you could say 27-year-old. Typing on a laptop. I usually use Mac laptops because they look better. In a Gothic library with a lot of books. And you're going to play a lot with the images, just generating it. And we're going to generate, and oh, did I forget? Yeah, and I have the aspect ratio. So I didn't need that other stuff because I'm not using other references. So it did sort of keep this, and we'll look at the other ones, whether they were more faithful when we bring up the weight. But sort of my initial choice of a picture wasn't really that interesting of a picture to begin with. So what we'll do is we'll generate a few. And we're going to take these, even if they're not good, because we want to go to the next step, showing you how to make video. Again, I'll generate a few. So that looks nice. That looks just, again, I didn't say East Indian, no. I just gave it what I believe is a female and what I believe is an Indian name. And by doing that, it created sort of generic, East Indian woman, 27-year-old student. And again, if you wish, you can use your own pictures of references. So I could put my picture in here. I wouldn't do this. It would be confused if I said this and then put in my images. The image will tend to dominate. But I could put a picture of me on a laptop with the same thing around it. But that would be using the OREF rather than just a generic name. So what we are going to do now is grab one of those images. And we typically do that to the Midjourney website. And this allows you to look at the image a little closer. So they all look sort of generic, student typing in a fancy library on a Mac. And so I'm just going with my instinct. My instinct is that, I just like this of the ones that we have. It just feels a little bit, but they all kind of are the same to me. This one I like as well. But I like this. The colors are warm. Uh, here's a student typing on a laptop. So if I like it, I'll tend to like it. And then we're going to download that. And the next thing, and I'm going to use a different tool. You can use either tool, stick with Claude or stick with ChatGPT. I'm just going to show you, it doesn't really matter. Whatever tool you want to use is fine, whatever tool you have access to. But I'm going to first put in the script. Get rid of all this stuff here. And we're going to create something very short. We're not going to create the whole thing because the purpose of this is we're just going to create like 2 B-roll scenes and then edit them. And with our little voiceover. But we're not going to make the whole video because the whole video is a process of just doing this and doing it again and doing it again until you piece together something. And I'll show you this in our scenes. If I generate 3 minutes of video, I'm probably generating a half hour of B-roll. Because I'm just generating a bunch of stuff and then picking what I like. Just like we didn't use any of these images here. They just kind of suck. But these are nice, decent little images. You also don't want to necessarily go for perfection, because then that will never end. But these are nice, solid, no copyright issues because you generated the image. They I think convey, here's a student typing on a laptop. And so that's what we do. And so then I'm going to say, use this for context. And it's critiquing it. So what I'm going to do is, in the session, it's still babbling on. And say, in the session, I will upload images. You will describe and suggest 2 shots. Each with image, and I'm going to just capitalize this for emphasis, and a suggested camera movement. For that works with a script. So then I'll do that for this one here. And we'll do that. I want, so I'm going to just correct it. In this session, the reason I'm saying in this session is I don't want to keep on typing and typing and typing and telling it to do the same thing again and again. And now this is better. Shot one, shot two. So shot one, describing the scene. Shot one is also talking about the camera. And then we're going to do this for each one. So then we go to runway, which will also give you access to. And this is for B-roll. Whenever you do stuff. So what we do is we generate video. I'm just going to call this tutorial. And we upload the image. You can also Photoshop it or do whatever you want before uploading it if you feel there's a need for that. But generally there's not. So we're going to do shot one. And we are going to do shot two. And this will take about 5 minutes to create these two shots. And this is unlimited, as we can see here. So the limit is you can't do too many. So I can do up to 2 at a time, and I have to wait for these two to finish before I can queue 2 more. But this will take about 5 minutes. So let's generate a second shot. From the script here. I'm just going to create this, and I'm going to put in some words. Go back to Midjourney. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. I'm just going to start pasting some of these things in just to get a second shot. Most of the time it's really thinking about these things. But because this is a tutorial, I don't want to spend... I'm going to keep the same... I'm just going to remove the library and the typing. I'm just doing this to get a second shot because we're going to need 2 shots just to show you how to edit. I'm not going to worry too much about this being the perfect shot. But this is most of the work. Most of the work is your storyboard, thinking about the shots you want, doing that. And for a lot of what you do with a real app, if you do a minute video, probably 30 seconds of that video is you just showing the app. Probably half of which is actually a little easier to do, the showing a tool videos. Because this is a vague prompt, we're getting a lot more diversity. And you can see whenever you get something where the 4 are very different, and the library looks like it's still in there somewhere. But this I like this one here. It shows some confusion. And this one here, I like actually I like this one. It's kind of a good shot. It's showing somebody being overwhelmed in just bureaucracy and paperwork, a recent graduate. They're remarkably good for such a vague prompt. So to me, Nina can comment on this, but this is sort of conveying recent graduate being overwhelmed with all this bureaucracy and paper stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. So we're going to do the same thing. We are going to download that. And we are going to go here. Suggest 2 shots. And again, the structure of these shots are what's in the scene and what is the camera movement. can also add effects. We'll do that in a second as well. So we're going to upload the second one. And we're going to have a third shot with some effects that we add on top of it. So let's look at our first one. Don't know why her laptop is shaking that much. So that looks a little better. So I'm going to favorite it and download that one. And we'll wait for the second shot, and I'll start the third shot once these two are done. But again, you're going to mix this probably somebody typing, and then you're going to show the actual screenshot of the app being used. Couple minutes, and we will get, there we go. Now I'm also going to add in a little effect. I'm going to say overlay. I'm just going to say $signs. So now I'm going to add an effect that isn't in the original image. Swirling around, $signs and question marks. So I just said overlay, $signs and question marks, swirling in front of her eyes. So this is not something that is in the original image. But what we're asking is we're asking the system to generate that. So we'll generate a couple of those. We'll take a look at these. Okay, and again, you're going to play with these things. I don't know what the smoke is coming from, but I like that one a little bit better nevertheless. And then what we do is we open up some editing tool. You can download Premiere for free or whatever tool you want. And we are going to remove these. Here. So we're going to import our media. So our media consists of these two things here. And those also include other shots. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. And our voiceover. Which is here. I don't know why we have, oh, I know why we have two. We have one that's a little smaller because this is just the vocals. So we can see how many we need. We generated 2 shots. It looks like we need maybe 30 shots to complete a 2-minute video, but 2 minutes is kind of a long video. We probably want to, keep it 2 minutes or under, or something like this. But then we just...
Welcome to the OPT Portal Project, a cutting-edge web application designed to transform how education...
And so what I tend to do at this point, and this will be the actual work, is welcome to. When I hear that, I probably want a scene that indicates like welcome. So the script didn't really create this, but we'll go ahead and create that now. But so here, welcome to. I like this image, but I don't think this image belongs in the first 3 seconds of this video. I think welcome to the OPT Portal project could either be showing the actual project, or if we want to use a visual metaphor, something more like a more welcoming gesture. like a handshake or something like that. And then this is the process. The process is listening to that. So the way I would do it.
Welcome to the OPT portal project.
So in my mind, and people, can have different views on this. I like this image, but I don't like this image there. I don't like it at the beginning, at the welcome. But let's just continue on.
A cutting edge web application.
Cutting edge application there. I want some sort of tech thing, some sort of high-tech image.
Designed to transform how educational institutions and
Here, educational institutions, things like this could work. So this one could be here, not necessarily the beginning. Because so these two could work there. And this is the process. So we're not going to make the whole video there, because the whole video will probably take about 5 hours to do. Because what you're going to do is you're going to look, okay, where do I want B-roll? And where do I want the actual image of the actual ad? And then you might even look at your voiceover and decide, I want to change my voiceover. In which case, let's actually change the voiceover to match this. So if we're to change the voiceover to match that, what we would do is we would go back to Suno. And it would be something like overwhelmed by. Where are we here? How many things? So I'm going to say, I want this changed. So we're going to generate that. I'm just going to generate an 11 lamps. Where's my 11? And let's use an Indian voice. Actually, I'll use Emmy. Emmy's fine.
Every year, thousands of international students face a complex document.
Actually, because it's an Indian face, I think I might pick an Indian voice. We can search the language and accent. So the language is English. The accent is Indian. What do you want?
Just don't give up trying to do what you really want to do. Where there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong.
I don't believe that, but actually let's use this voice.
Wherever you are, curled up in bed, gazing at the stars, or missing someone special, stay with me. Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT application process. Universities struggle with manual tracking systems, fragmented communication, and administrative bottlenecks. What if there was a better way?
We're going to use that. And so we're going to change the voice a bit. And you can do your voice not necessarily in one full thing. You can do it in steps if you wish. Don't have to generate the full voiceover. But we're going to import that one. And I think these two scenes actually might work for this little bit of stuff. I'm going to zoom in to get better control. Sure, I line up exactly. And then I'm going to create a transition here. I'm just going to transitions. Fade. Also fade there.
Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT application process.
So in my opinion, that voiceover matches that image much better. Nina's the expert on that. But that's sort of the process of doing things. You want your visual to match what's being said. And with everything in, and so let's just play what we have so far.
Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT application process. Universities struggle with manual tracking.
So it ended up fading through black. I don't know why. Did I add the wrong fade? I'm just going to, you can also see where the voice is. We generally want to change scenes on empty spots, so we're going to do that.
Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT application process. Universities struggle with manual tracking systems, fragmented communication.
And just keep on doing that. And then at this point around here, I would sort of add a picture of the actual, and begin to show the actual product, the OPT portal. And so this is the process. We just keep on doing it and doing it until you're comfortable with it. You may only like this much and then generate another scene there, and then go here and generate something, and there and generate, just a lot of back and forth, like everything with AI. So we changed our voiceover because, and I actually like this intro a lot better than our original one, because it clearly states the problem. There's this massive, you know, red tape bureaucracy thing. Can we make that easy? So
every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT application.
Let's see if I have one that's more completely done. I may not, because I tend to move, because these things use a lot of space, I tend to move them. I don't think this, but I think I have the video, not this, but the actual, let's import that, import it. So after doing this for about 4 or 5 hours, you end up with something that looks more like this. So this is basically just scene after scene after scene after scene after scene. This is actually a long one. It's 7 minutes, but it's just.
Great is love unchained.
So this theme is just, you know, this is about Pride Month. So it's just sort of Pride back then when it started with the Stonewall riots, and Pride now, which is much more of a celebration. But back then it was people getting beaten and put in jail and all that kind of thing. And it just goes back and forth like that. There's then, now, then, now, then, now, then, now. And you just do it again and again and again until you think you're done. And you're never fully done, because you'd always look at what you do and say, well, I could have changed this. But at some point, you're just going to, you know, have to be done. So that's the process. Any questions on the process?
I have tons of questions, if I can jump in. So this is a very different workflow from the traditional way of building a video like this, where you start with a script, right? For your timing, and then you storyboard everything out. You have it all laid out before you start, shooting or generating. Do you tend to sort of build as you go, or do you
That's an interesting concept, is you're right. The difference is, the reason why you did that is you just to generate those scenes. Any of those scenes would have cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah. money.
So you have to plan it and pre-plan it and pre-plan it to make sure if you're going to shoot that,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to use that.
Right.
The AI processes just generate something. Do I like it? And a little accidental, like that image of the person getting buried, the student buried in all the paperwork.
Yeah.
That was just a random thing that came out of it. But I kind of liked that. So and then I went back and changed the voice over to better match that image. But I think you're right in this is something we should write about and talk about, is the process I think is very different because it's so easy to generate, the voice. So easy to generate. I don't like that voice. It should have been an Indian voice, not a New Zealand voice.
Right.
But you can't do that in the old style because you had to hire a voice actor.
Yep.
And once you hired the voice actor, that's your voice. You can't go back and change that voice for that particular shot.
Mm-hmm.
Here you can. Here it's just literally, going back and forth, going back and forth, going back and forth. So a lot of it's really your eye and your feel of, being able to quickly generate stuff. So, for example, with you, you're learning this stuff, but it may take you a while to generate any of those voiceovers or any of those images. But as you get better at it, you'll be able to just generate sort of what's in your head
Mm-hmm.
very quickly.
Right.
Now it may be, well, how do I generate an image of, a student on a Mac laptop or whatever you're thinking? But as you get better at that, as you learn to do that more quickly, I think your process will be different from the regular storyboard process because even in the regular storyboard process, I wish I could have redone that better.
Oh,
But
yeah, absolutely.
we're $40,000 into this. This is committed. We're doing this and getting it out the door. Whereas with this kind of process, it's a matter of, playing with it and trying, playing, trying, playing, trying, playing, trying, playing, trying, playing. Because any of these things, and that's really the difference with sort of garbage AI and good AI, is the garbage AI is the people who take the first thing they get out of ChatGPT and Claude and always use the first thing they get out. First image, first script, first voiceover, first this, first that. And then, but if you don't do that, if you say, hey, can we rework this? Maybe we want this in the scene, maybe one of that in the scene, and play with it, then you're going to get a much better quality product.
So you don't have to plan out, okay, I'm going to go from a tight shot to a medium shot to, you can change it as you go along. Is that your process? It's just build as you go?
Just build the process is my process.
Fascinating. Never done it that way.
I didn't think about it being so different from a regular.
Oh, it's totally different. I mean, I don't even know how I'm gonna approach it because it's so different from my process of spending lots of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a commercial. You have to plan everything out, including, your whether it's tight versus medium versus, you go down to the nth degree. You do a shooting board and not just a storyboard. You go and shoot, it's like second by second, frame by frame. So, because you're spending lots of money.
It's just really playing with things and seeing what the things can do. Like, the stuff with playing with the old family photos, just, hey, can it do this? So then what I started doing is just putting pictures. I took an old photo of myself and then put myself in scenes of me in the Ramayana. And whether that works or not, you just look at it. And again, if you put yourself in the Ramayana, that can open you up to other criticism about, not, cultural stuff and other stuff. But it's amazing what these things can do. It's crazy what they can do in terms of you could star in your own movie. And they'll turn your face. I mean, this is, it might not seem like much, but to be able to take a photo And then now that it's a photo, I can make a video from it. So to take a photo like this one, and then turn it even a little bit, or put it in a different outfit. Here, just wasn't possible 2 months ago. And so, you can have your own opinions on how faithful this is. It looks pretty damn close.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
And so, but that switch of, a little bit, and of course it's upscaled and higher quality as well, which is nice if you just want to restore old photos. It's stunning. And then you can do things. It doesn't really work for this, but like on the Midjourney here, if you wanted to have fun, and this is a bit fun that you can have for your parents. I don't know how people are familiar with this particular movie, if I can find it. But so a movie called Home Alone. So
That you were.
and you can see the original photo there, right?
Yeah.
And you can see, you as, Home Alone.
Yeah, it looks like that.
And so it's insane what you can do with these tools. And I would just, to make your parents happy, just send them a picture of you, in something that is meaningful to them, and for some reason. I don't know if Home Alone is meaningful for them. But it's insane what you can do with these tools.
I have one last question before I monopolize this thing. So I think the one thing we want to do is, I like the outro that you created for Humanitarians, and I think in terms of anything that goes on the Humanitarians YouTube, we should probably have the same outro.
So let me put that, before I forget, let me just put that on. So the outro is here. I think it's here. No, I have to remember where I put it. This is why it's also good to put things on. I'm trying to figure out where these things are. Yeah, here they are. And this is another reason to put things on. So I'm going to put this on, I'm going to call this outro. And I'm going to put it on the GitHub right now. And put it on YouTube, under YouTube. I'm going to actually call it art. I'm going to put it under art, so it'll be easier to find. So all we do, let me show you, we'll add an outro right now to the current video. Let me just upload it here. So to add an outro, all we do is this. We go here. So we wanted to add an outro. This were the ending of it. We go about there. We import, since this is dark, generally dark, I'm going to import the white version. If this were very light, I would import the dark version of it. But we just go to our art and we go to outro. So we do the high res version of it. And we put it there. And then we add an effect to it. And so you can see that if I wanted to end exactly where this ended, I would do that. I would move this so these align. And then I'm just going to add a transition to it. So I'm going to add not a fade. This time I'm going to add a dissolve. And at the end, I'm going to add a fade, but I'm going to do a fade through black. Then I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to make this one a little longer. It's going to take longer to fade in. And so you can choose any effect that you want. And then we also want a title done in the same way. So the title you would create in
Systems, fragmented communication, and administrative bottlenecks.
So this has to fade to black as well. If this were actually the end, it would fade to black. So then this is the way we're going to end everything.
Systems, fragmented communication, and administrative bottlenecks. What if there was a...
This is going on. So if that were the ending, that's how you create the ending. If you want a title, did we agree on Garamond?
Yes.
If we want a title, again, Illustrator, this is a new thing, so I don't see Illustrator, but I think I installed it. So we just create, what I need to give you is the specs. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the specs are going to be. So I'm going to just actually import the one I have. I'm going to open and then delete it. The reason I'm doing this is not because I need this image. I need to know how big this image is. And so I'm just going to import this only for its size. And I'm going to call this intro. I'll also and I'm going to call this intro. And this is just going to be in a Illustrator file. So I actually don't need this image anymore. So I deleted it, but I'll just give it some title. So I'm just going to go to the type tool. And it needs to be much bigger than that. And it needs to be Garamond. And there's so many Garamonds, we should probably decide on a type of Garamond. But I'm going to go with the semi-bulb. Maybe subhead. Subhead is nice. And bigger. And you can make it as big as you want. So even though I can only take it to 72, I can just type in whatever I want. My guess, if I wanted it the full thing, it's going to be around there. Little too big, I guess it looks. No, perfect guess. Maybe a little too big. Take it down a bit. Of course, this needs to be white. I'll just keep it black for the hell of it. Know what that looks like. So we save it. Export as a ping, make sure it's transparent. So I think it, by default, it'll be transparent, but I'll just export it a little bit more.
You're talking about the background?
Yeah.
Transparent, okay.
Yeah, so it's transparent here. And I'm just going to put that in the same, where is this? I think it's in the downloads, but we'll see. And this will be the beginning. So we go to the very beginning. And the title will be something like OPT Portal. It wouldn't be Lorem Ipsum. And we do the same thing. We just import I think it's here. What did I call it? Intro? Or maybe it is under the scripts. I don't know. Is it under outro?
Yep, there it is, intro, the bottom.
And you add it, intro. And then you do the same exact thing. You just add some effect. I'll add a different effect, different transition to it. I don't know what 90% of these transitions are. And a lot of them are really funky. I tend to just use fades and dissolves.
Yeah, I do too.
But we'll just do one for the hell of it. And then we need to I can just fade it out. I'll just dissolve it out. And there we go.
Every year, thousands of international students face a complex, document-heavy OPT.
And that's probably a little long. So I'm going to shorten that. You should be able to read it. So basically, do you know any rules for this? Like read times 3 or something? Takes you 3 seconds to read.
Yeah.
Every year, thousands of international students face a complex.
That seems long enough for a title for me, but you should probably write down some rules, Nina, about title length.
Got it.
And the title length is probably maybe affected by how long the title is. So if it's a little longer, it might be if it's a longer title, it might be a little longer that you keep it on screen.
So I think that's the only thing we want consistent on all our videos is the intro and the outro.
Mm-hmm.
The use of the typeface, just so that there's something that holds all these videos together.
Yeah, and I'll upload the AI. So you can basically just open up an Illustrator and replace the lorem ipsum text with whatever your text is. And it'll keep the same size, and it'll keep the same typeface. Assuming you have the typeface installed. I thought we put things in our, oh yeah, it's under outro.
Does everybody have the Adobe Suite? I know it's free to Northeastern.
And so you can type in Northeastern Adobe Suite Creative Cloud, and it'll show you how to install it. But it's easy to install, and I think you are able to put it on 3 different computers. Yeah, so this intro white, you can change it. I'll also just, for the hell of it, just create an intro black as well. And put those there. Yeah, so just replace intro white or intro black with whatever your actual title is. And just have some transition in and some transition out. And Nina will write down some rules, which we'll put on that page about the exact name of the Guillermo, Guillermo semibold.
Yep.
And the 300 point. And if it's, this many words versus that many seconds kind of, heuristics.
Thanks for listening to this recording of Studio Sessions with Bear, a live Humanitarians AI training led by Professor Nik Bear Brown, recorded on May 17, 2025. We hope it gave you practical insights into using AI for educational video creation. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on future sessions. Share it with a friend or colleague working in AI, education, or creative tech, because learning is better when we do it together.